Let me start off by saying, this is a dumb video. Despite both these lenses being 24mm, there's really no comparison. One lens is a full frame, the other is a crop sensor. One is meant for high-end professionals willing to spend over $1,000 on a single lens, and the other's around $100, targeted more at beginners. And on top of all of that, this test is going to be done on a Canon 80D, because it can accept both lenses, even though this one really isn't meant for a crop sensor. This is by no means a scientific test, but I'm gonna go out, shoot a bunch of stuff. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a dumb video, but it should be a fun video. And if you're interested in seeing just what kind of performance you can get out of a professional lens, it could be pretty interesting. Actually golden hour right now, so we don't have a ton of time, but let's see what we can get. So first off, let's talk price. The f2.8 version of this lens comes in at about $130, and the f1.4 is about 10 times that. So that is a massive difference in price. Yes, you heard that correctly. The f1.4 version of this lens is $1,500. And that's honestly a huge drawback to this lens. That price is monstrous. It's gonna keep a lot of people from ever even considering buying it. I mean, if you're just a hobbyist and you're not doing this for a living, $1,500, like, whew, you gotta really love it. So if you shoot on a crop sensor camera, do not let those cocky, know-it-all internet gearheads convince you to give next month's rent to Canon just to afford this lens. Really consider the f2.8 version. In fact, I remember, yeah, I'm filming this in my pajamas, leave me alone. It's cozy. I remember when I just got a Canon T6, I couldn't even buy it new, I bought it refurbished for $275 or something. I was looking for a quality telephoto lens to shoot birds, maybe some sports, and people are like, just get the 70-200. Yes, that's an awesome lens. But why would you recommend that to someone who's got a $300 camera? Build quality. So as far as build quality goes, the 24 1.4 is worlds better, and that's kind of to be expected. The body just feels so much more durable, it's got a lot more heft, the focus ring is buttery smooth, super precise, and this lens is weather sealed, so it's got this rubber seal here, which is going to prevent dust and moisture from getting into your camera, gunking it all up. As an L lens, it's meant to take on the toughest jobs, any environment, rain, wind, snow, dust. The 2.8 on the other hand is, I don't know, meant for your kid's birthday party. Jokes aside, the 2.8 version, it's built fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not quite as beefy as something you're dropping over $1,000 on. Oh, and of course the full frame f1.4 can work on full frame as well as crop sensor cameras, and that makes it adaptable to a lot of cinema cameras and other full frames as well. While the f2.8 EF-S version is only going to work on crop sensors. Now, what you've probably been waiting for, we've got Aperture. And admittedly, the f2.8 version still does a pretty good job blurring out that background and isolating your subject. But the f1.4 is definitely a significant upgrade. Looking at them side by side on a Canon 80D, you can see that f1.4 really ups the production value. Like, this looks like a high-end professional camera when you're shooting with that shallow of a depth of field. Here's another side by side comparison. You be the judge. Okay, now let's talk sharpness. So at this price difference, you might expect just a massive difference in sharpness. And that's what you get. Sort of. Alright, so let's get a quick sharpness test. So both lenses are going to be at f4. First off is the 24mm f2.8. Alright, this is the 24mm f1.4. Shooting 1080p video, I honestly couldn't really notice a difference. Like, there might have been a small one, but it really wasn't that significant. I tried both lenses outside, I tried them inside in more of a studio environment, and there just wasn't a lot of a difference. Even shooting landscapes, I mean, not a big difference between these two lenses. I mean, here's one from the f1.4, here's one for the f2.8, or did I switch them? Can you even tell the difference? But if you really start to pixel peep, crop in on an image, and really get into the nitty-gritty of the sharpness, you'll realize there's actually a pretty significant difference. And now, you can make the argument, no one crops in that much, or people are looking at it on their phone anyways. But that is a massive difference in sharpness just looking at this sign. Especially with a prime lens, since you can't actually zoom in. If you just can't get close enough for some reason, having that ability to crop in post and still have a sharp image, that's pretty valuable. And on top of that, all your images are sharper, even if it's not super noticeable just on like a regular computer display. Also, just because I get this question a lot of people ask me if you can vlog on 24 millimeters. On an APS-C sensor, so a crop sensor like a T7i, an 80D, and 90D, I wouldn't recommend it. So even if you're okay with it being this tight on your face, when you start moving, I don't know, I just don't really like the look. Okay, so we're back on the 24mm f1.4, and before it gets too dark, I'm heading out now. I wanted to do a motor test. So, can you hear the motor noise focusing? So if I'm talking while moving, does that muffle it more? Could you even hear it in the first place? Let's find out. The 24mm f1.4 has a USM motor, not quite as silent as the f2.8's STM motor, but it should be good. Okay, so now I'm on the 24mm f2.8 STM. So can you hear that motor noise? What about if I'm talking? You shouldn't be able to hear it in the first place, but if I'm talking, there's almost no chance you're gonna hear that motor trying to focus on the lens. Oh, also for reference, I've just got a Rode Video Micro hooked in on top of the camera. That's what I'm recording audio with. Now, neither of the 24mm lenses have image stabilization, and of course they have the exact same focal length of 24mm. But that f1.4 destroys, I mean just destroys 2.8 in low light. Okay, and for a quick low light test, right now I'm at ISO 6400 and f1.4 on the 24mm f1.4. Now, admittedly, it's probably a little bit noisy right now. It's actually very dark. So if we just stop down to f2.8, this is the image you would get, which is unusable. The camera can't even focus on me at this. But back at f1.4, we're at least getting a somewhat usable image. Honestly, f1.4 is crazy. It's almost like night vision. So you made it this far, and no surprise, the f1.4 obliterates the f2.8. I mean, hopefully it would at that price difference. But if you're not looking to just drop $1,500 to get a good depth of field on your APS-C camera, does that mean you're out of luck? No, not at all. Lenses like the Sigma 30mm f1.4, which is actually what I'm filming on right now, offers very similar performance at about a third the price. You could also take a look at the Sigma 18-35 f1.8, which is actually a zoom lens with an f1.8 aperture, which is insane for also around a third or maybe like 2/5 the price. Now, that's partially because they're not made by Canon, partially because they're only for crop sensor cameras, so you can't take them with you if you upgrade. But those offer really good value, especially if you don't want to buy full frame glass. If you're looking at getting either your first or second or, okay, maybe third prime lens, the f2.8 offers an insane value. For only $130, you're getting a pretty sharp, pretty fast, pretty versatile focal length. It's a good lens, but it might leave you longing for a little more as you progress. The f1.4, on the other hand, is for someone who knows they want the best of the best. You know that 24mm is the focal length for you. You know you want that f1.4 aperture. You want good low light. You want super sharp images. You're probably making a living with your camera or just a very passionate hobbyist. You want top tier performance, reliability, durability, longevity. You want a lens that's just going to be good to use for years to come. That's when you buy the f1.4. Now, it's a little bit of a weird time because the RF mount just came out. I mean, somewhat recently. But if you decide to just adapt it or use it on cinema cameras, I mean, it's not going bad. This is a solid lens. Anyways, hope that was kind of fun. Again, it's a little bit of a silly comparison, but I thought it'd just be a fun, chill video, and maybe you'd learn a thing or two. So with that being said, thanks for hanging out with me. My name's Josh Winiarski. Have fun, stay creative, and I'll see you all in the next one.